Hello, welcome to Kay's in the Garden. I'm Kay, and we're actually in my garage today. So today is seed starting time. So we're going to start off with talking about seeds, and then we will get into actually planting peppers today. I actually have my seed starting set up in my garage, and we'll get to that in a moment. But we're going to start off talking about starting seeds and how to know when to start your seeds and what seeds should you grow. If you're new to gardening, you want to find out what zone you're in, and that is based off of your zip code. So you can Google online or go to the Farmer's Almanac and type in your zip code to determine what zone. From there, you want to also find out when is your estimated last frost date. Your last frost date is important to know is because it determines when you start your seeds. So if you look at the back of a seed packet, it typically will tell you how far in advance you need to plant your seed, depending on your last frost date. So for example, peppers take a longer time to germinate and grow. So it's about 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost date. So that's why we start peppers and tomatoes a lot sooner than other varieties of vegetables. Okay. So that's how you know when to start your seeds, is to find out your estimated last frost date. You're able to count backwards based on the time frame that you should start your seeds. Okay. Another thing that I do in preparation is I have a very professional sketch of my backyard, at least pretty much how the beds are laid out. And then I try to determine what I'm going to grow and where I will be planting it. I tend to plant heavy when I'm starting seeds because sometimes plants don't make it. Sometimes they don't make the up potting. Sometimes they don't make the transplant. I may forget to water in this process. So I like to have more just to be on the safe side than less. And so that's why it's very easy for me to start from seeds, because it's more economical than purchasing plants at a big box store, which we will talk about that in a moment. So I start off by sketching out my garden so I know exactly where everything will be planted. I try to make sure that I rotate my crops, so I don't plant tomatoes in the same place every year. I don't plant peppers in the same place every year. I try to rotate. And because different plants require different nutrients or different sunlight, I try to keep all that in mind as I'm planning out this process. But I also want to make sure that I'm utilizing my space the best possible way. Okay, so that's first. Second thing that I will do is I go through all of my seeds and I pick out the varieties that I'm going to plant this year. And let's say, for example, peppers. So here are my spicy peppers. And what I will do is I will create labels for all of my peppers. I tend to make multiple labels for each plant because as you're uppotting them, you want to be able to continue to label what plant is in that container, because in their earlier years, they all look the same. Okay. I use this garden marker to label. It does wonderful over time. It doesn't fade. It stands up to the weather, to the rain, to the soil. Every year, I'm able throughout the year to see what is planted in that spot, because a lot of times you hear gardeners say, I don't know what this is because my label washed off. So if you don't like that, I would recommend you trying this garden marker. It's worth it. And I get to save on the labels because I get to use them year after year. And I'm planting, some of my same favorite varieties, so I don't have to keep making new labels. Now that I have my garden organized, I've selected which seeds. Now I have to focus on soil. So let's transition over to soil. Here's a container of soil that I use whenever I am getting ready to start my seeds. I will do a mixture of soil in this container. I like to keep a very light, loose soil so that there's not a lot of resistance for the seed when it's starting to germinate. It has a combination of like cocoa coir and or vermiculite, and it's probably 50% the cocoa coir and compost. I do sift the compost and try to get out all of the larger pieces. For example, me running my hand through it, you can see here, there's a small piece of like a wood piece. I try to get all of these out because I don't want the seed to have to compete for space in a container, in a growing container space with this. So I will try to pull those out. But as you notice, this soil is somewhat dry, and so we're going to add moisture to it before we begin seed starting. Now, again, if you're at a big box store or you're ordering online, you may want to look for something that says seed starting. I do have a little bit of combination of a seed starting mix that I got from Haas in my monthly membership subscription. So I do have this packet in here mixed with some compost and vermiculite. I did get my compost from Amazon. I will link it in the description below, as well as some additional soil or cocoa coir that I purchased for seed starting. So as we up pot this, I'm going to need a lot more than this container. So I did purchase some from Amazon, and I will link it in the description below. I love playing in the soil. And should I use gloves? Probably so, but I just love to get my hands into the soil and feel what I'm doing. So I do recommend that you use gloves if you're first starting off and you can get used to wearing gloves. It may make it easier for you to continue wearing gloves. But I didn't start off with gloves, and I've just gotten really used to getting my hands dirty. So I do have a container of water here that I'm going to slowly add to this, and I'm going to just mix it in until I can get this moist. We want to moisten the soil before we add it to our seed trays, is because once you get this into the seed trays and you try to water it, it will be difficult or more challenging to get the soil to absorb the water. So let's get the water into the container, give it a moment to allow it to soak up water, and once it does that, we will start adding it to our seed trays. Okay, we'll be right back. Okay, as you can see, the soil is pretty much, if I were to squeeze it, it will still kind of clump together. Um, so it's not, I mean, if I squeeze it really tight, it does have a little bit of drippage to it, but I don't want it soppy wet. I just want to make sure that it does have some moisture to it. Okay. Okay, let's start filling our trays. Okay, so the trays that I use are from Bootstrap Farmer. I'll tell you, when I first started gardening, I didn't have all these tools, and I was just as successful as I am with the tools. So you don't have to start off with all of these items. So I don't recommend you going out and just spending a lot of money on all of this. I grew in like gallon containers. I would cut the tops of it off, and I would just put soil at the bottom, and I would put the top part back on to make like a dome effect. I use containers like that strawberries or blueberries came in because they had a hole at the bottom that had drainage. You can use just about anything to kind of start seeds. But over time, I've slowly added to my collection. I didn't go out and buy all these things at once. I didn't have a grow station behind me with lights and heat lamps. I put them out by my windowsill in my dining room and let the sunlight come in. So I will tell you, you're going to see a lot of items, a lot of tools that I have that you don't have to use to start off your garden. So again, I do have Bootstrap Farmers grow kits. I have their 1020 tray, which is a nice sturdy plastic that I'm able to use year after year. And then I do have their seed tray. So it fits right into the 1020 tray. And this is what we're going to use to actually start our seeds. And so I'm going to fill each of these containers with the soil, and then we'll start getting our seeds into our soil. Okay. I just take handfuls of soil and I just kind of try to fill the holes. And I'm on a table that if I get soil on it, I can easily just, wipe it off or, and of course use that soil. I don't throw that away. And if I'm in the garage where if I make a mess on the floor, it's perfectly fine. Because when you're playing with soil, you're bound to get a little dirty. Now, because I'm just layering it on the top, I'm pretty sure this soil there's been no pressure of getting it down to the bottom. But we want the soil all the way to the bottom. So there's two things you can do. You can get an identical tray. I'm just going to put it on top and press. And that will get all the soil. You can see it push the soil down deeper into the tray, which means I still have some room for more soil. Again, you want each compartment to be completely filled with soil. And I said there's two ways you can do it. The other way you can do it is just use your fingers and go to each compartment and just press it down. Again, you're just trying to get the soil all the way to the bottom. Okay, now we have our first tray ready to plant. I have multiple 1020 trays, so I'm just going to I'm going to move this to the side for a second and just start on my second tray. Okay, so now we have filled two trays. I think we're going to start off with just two trays today and see how far we get. I think one tray is going to be peppers and one tray is going to be tomatoes. So let's move on to our next step, which is starting our seeds. Okay, so we're going to start off with our peppers. And I've decided that I'm going to do half of this tray spicy peppers and half of this tray non-spicy peppers, or what I also call sweet peppers. There's 10 rows of 5. I'm probably going to do 4 of these spicy and 6 of these non-spicy. The reason why is I grew a lot of spicy peppers last year, so I already have a lot preserved, but I like a lot of jalapenos because I love bacon cream cheese jalapenos. Love those. And I also do a stuffed poblano pepper that I also enjoy meal prepping and just pulling those out when I want a quick, throw it in the oven, lunch or snack. Okay, so let me take the rubber band off of the labels and get these organized really quick. Okay, so now that I have those sorted out, I like to go ahead and put the labels in the tray, and then I'll add the seeds. So I know we're going to do quite a few of the Megatron jalapenos. So I'm just going to go ahead and label this whole row with the Megatron. I love banana peppers, so I'm going to do 3 hot banana peppers. Now I'm going to tell you, in each cell, I will plant at least 2 to 3 seeds. So if I do 1 row of mega jalapenos and there's 5 cells and I plant 3 per cell, that's 15 plants. Now, not all 15 is going to make it to the garden. Some I'm probably going to give away. I mentioned earlier that I purchased 2 green stalks for my kids. I have a friend who I'm encouraging to start gardening, so I'll probably have some plants for her. Um, and also some of them won't make it in the uppotting. Some may not germinate. So, with that being said, we plant more than we are anticipating planting out in the garden. I'm going to do a whole row of poblano peppers. Let's see, I have 2 here. I have a mulatto island pepper. I'm going to do 2 rows here. And when we get to planting the seeds, when I get to the packages, I'll show you. We have cayenne peppers. I'm going to do 2 orange, and I'm going to do 2 red. And I'm going to do 1 golden macone. Okay, so I think that is all of the spicy peppers that I'm going to plant. The rest of these are going to be sweet peppers. Or at least I'll start from this side and work my way back. This last row here, let's see who wins. Okay, so let's get the spicy peppers planted. I didn't get to shishito. I need 2 shishito peppers. You know what? I'm just going to do 1 shishito, and I'm going to plant 3 seeds in there. Nope, we're going to do 2. Because something happens. I have to plant more because something always happens. I'm going to do 2. So one of the things I use is a chopstick. A lot of people use different things. They use different tools to plant their seeds. To me, a chopstick is very easy to maneuver. It's small enough on the tip. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of make 3 little divots in the soil where I will plant the seed, and then I'll cover it over with soil. Now I will show you. Let's start off with the Megatron. When I first started planting seeds, it was a question of how deep should I plant the seed, or how much soil should be on top of the seed when I plant it. Like, how deep should I plant it? I read somewhere, saw online somewhere, that a good rule of thumb would be the thickness of the seed is the amount of soil that should be on top of the seed when it's planted in the soil. So for example, carrot seeds are extremely tiny. And so they're so small that you literally put them on top of the soil and just press down for seed to soil contact. But for something like, here's a pepper seed, then you want to, I tend to use, like I said, and make a little divot into the soil. And then once I put the seed in there, I will just kind of spread the soil back over it. And I'll bring you in closer in just a moment so you can see what I'm doing. So you can see here, there are 3 little holes that I've just kind of put into the soil. And then I will drop a seed into each of those little holes. And then just kind of push that down, make sure I have a good seed contact to the soil. And then I'm just going to cover it up. Now, the reason why I plant more than one is because sometimes seeds don't germinate. I have had these seeds this is my second year. I used some of them last year. So that should be fine. I do expect to have a high 90% germination, but just in case that I don't, then I want to be able to have extra plants. Okay. And then you can just use your finger and cover those up. And again, a little tap on the soil is great. You don't want to have air pockets because that will cause maybe your seed to not germinate. We have one more to go. Again, I'm just putting a little hole, not too deep, and just dropping the seeds in. And just using my finger to cover it up. Okay, I have a seed here. Now I wonder why in this mulatto pepper, I'll end up having a jumbo jalapeno. And I don't want to put that seed back in there, so I'm just going to drop that in that corner and I'll have 4 in this cell. That's okay. Because when they get a little bit larger, we're going to take them out of the cell and up pot them into a larger pot in their own individual space. Okay. Again, as you notice, I will reuse labels that I may have gotten in previous years. As long as it's nice and sturdy and I can see what it is, I will use it. I'm going to prop you up here so you can kind of see as I continue. So we're going to move on to the next row, which is our hot banana peppers. On these hot banana peppers, I actually saved some seeds from last year. I'm just going to repeat this step all the way through. There has been times where I have placed 4 seeds in a container. Again, when we get ready to up pot these, it will be fine. They'll have plenty of room. Okay, that is our spicy banana. Banana peppers, I mean, I guess I could probably show you from the picture here. Spicy banana peppers are just like the banana peppers. They're long and yellow, but they do have quite a bit of heat to the spicy banana peppers. Jalapenos are standard jalapenos. However, they are a large size variety. Some people call them mammoth. They're also called Megatron jalapenos. They're much larger in size. This is the Mulata Islino pepper. It appears to be similar to like a poblano pepper, just brown, but I'm only going to grow 6 of those. So 3 in each cell. Okay. Some people will put 2 seeds in one hole. Quite often I see that. And that is your choice. You're able to do that if you like. I tend to separate them out a little bit. It's easier when I get ready to up pot them. It's a lot easier for me to separate them when they don't grow so close together. All right, we're down on our first 2 rows and we're going to move on to the poblano peppers. Now the poblano peppers that I grew last year was from Botanical Interest, and I actually saved quite a bit of seeds. I don't know if you can see in there. Now, if you're new to gardening and you don't have the time or you don't feel that you're at a level that you want to start your plants from seed, because I will tell you there is a little bit of patience involved in this process as far as time. You do have to make sure that they're watered. There are some conditions in which they need to grow in. So if you choose not to start from seed, the great thing about that is you're always welcome to purchase plants closer to the growing season, and you don't have to start from seed. You can also maybe partner up with a friend who wants to garden, and they grow all the pepper plants and you grow all the tomato plants. Okay, we are now 3 rows down. We have our jalapenos, we have our mulata islano, banana peppers, and our poblanos. I am going to speed this up a little bit as we plant the cayennes and the shishitos. And then we're going to move on to our sweet peppers. Okay, I skipped the golden Marconi because I don't see my seeds, so I've got to go find them. But we are done with the spicy peppers. Let's slide this down a little bit so we can get over to our sweet pepper side. We do have quite a few labels for sweet peppers, but we're going to see what we can get to. Okay, so now we have all the labels in. We have all holes, and I can just now go and plant. When I prep like this, I don't necessarily have to go in order because as I put in the seeds, I will cover it and then I'll know that that's been planted. So for example, we're going to start off with the sweet alma paprika. I got this seed from Pine Tree Garden Seeds. And let's see, I don't think I have, yep, I actually have quite a few left. I think I'm only going to plant 3 or 4. I only have 1 cell, so you can again see those seeds. And pepper seeds pretty much all look the same, so you want to make sure you're staying organized. And this is the alma paprika, and I'm going to just plant 4. Let's live on the wild side. Again, when I up pot these, they will go in their own individual container or pot. So just starting off, they will be fine. Okay. Let's move over to Gurney's sweet banana peppers. Okay, let's move on to the next packet. This is a sweet purple bell pepper from Seeds and Such. It is a hybrid pepper dragonfly. Okay, so once I have them in there, I'm going to just cover it up, pat down, and we're good. Moving on, and you're going to keep going in the same fashion until you get all of your holes covered and your seeds planted. Again, we're doing a giant red bell pepper. It has thick walls. And again, this is the first time I'm trying this one, and it is a hybrid pepper red impact. It is also by Seed and Such. We just have 1 container, so I need 3 seeds. This is a diamond bell pepper, and it is from In My Gardener. My first year growing these were last year, and I loved these peppers. Very mild, sweet, almost translucent in color. These can last you to maybe even 3-4 years, as long as you store them properly. Our next seed is going to be a sweet pepper candy apple hybrid by Burpee. And I've actually had these seeds since 2022 is the date on the package. I only have 5 seeds, and I'm going to plant all of them. I only have one sale for this one. We're going to move on now to Cuban nail peppers. I grew these last year from In My Gardener, and they were great. I actually have 2 sales for the Cuban nails. There we go. Put the extra seeds back. And let's cover these up. We're going to move on to the Keystone Resistant Giant Bell Pepper. And from In My Gardener, they also were great last year. And I cook with a lot of bell pepper. I will also dehydrate my bell peppers and grind them into a powder and use those for seasoning. Next, we have the tortillero pepper from Baker Creek. And I like to grow these because once they turn red, they're great for grinding into paprika. I think I have 2. I do have 2 slots for tortillero. Oop, 2 seeds went in that one hole, and we're going to let it stay. Let's just get one more seed. We'll drop that in there. Now, guys, keep in mind, gardening is a little bit of trial and error. If you think, oh man, that seed is too deep, don't take it out or, get frustrated. Just keep going. It will probably germinate just fine. Okay, so moving on to our next pepper, which is a habanada pepper from Baker's Creek. Now, everyone knows about habaneros, and they're extremely spicy. And we are going to grow the non-spicy because my husband cannot handle black pepper. So we always have to have some variety for him. And I think I'm going to go on the wall side with this one as well and plant 4. Moving on to my favorite pepper. Now, I don't have a picture for you, and if I can get one, post it on the screen, I will. But I've shown you many times in the garden. It is the Lesia pepper. When fully ripe, it is a red, heart-shaped pepper with very thick walls, and it is considered the sweetest bell pepper. And I would agree. I mentioned the golden Marconi when I was planting the spicy peppers. Golden Marconis are not considered spicy. So I did move that from the front row. It was listed. It was here in this first cell, but I moved it. We're going to do these two as the golden Marconis. And the golden Marconis are from Pine Tree, and it is a sweet pepper. Okay, let's see what we have left. I have a purple bell pepper, which is something I saved from my seeds last year, or maybe even the year before. Pippin's Golden Honey Pepper from Baker Creek. Last year was my first time planting this pepper. It is the cutest pepper because it goes through several stages of color before it actually gets to that golden. You can kind of see it on the package a little bit. You see there's one here that's kind of a darker purple. It starts off green. I think it goes through kind of a purple and then a yellowy, and then it comes to this golden honey color. And to be honest with you, I always picked it when it was purple. I just couldn't help myself. Okay, and we also have the Sweet Chocolate Beauty bell pepper from Pine Tree. These peppers are a little bit older, so I'm going to put 2 in 2 of the cells and 1 in the last cell. We have all the peppers, sweet and spicy, except for we have 2 cells here. I'll come back to these 2 cells and determine what I want to add here. Now that we have our seeds planted in their cells, we're going to get them on to our grow station. Okay, so I've turned the lights on the grow station so that you can get an idea of how this works. And so seed, they need warmth and light and moisture to germinate. So we have simulated the sun by installing these LED lights. And I just purchased them from Amazon. I will link them in the description. And we also have heat mats. Okay, so I have heat mats and I have grow lights. And I will take the 1020 tray that actually has the seed trays on top of them, and I will place them underneath the grow lights on the heat mat. Here we have our tray sitting on the heat mat with the grow light. The grow light is simulating sunlight that's going to assist in the seeds to germinate. The heat mat is also helping to simulate the heat it gets from the sun. So since it's cold, the seeds do not know it's time to germinate unless we create an environment in which it lets them know it's time to grow. I have a spray bottle that I will spray the tops to keep the soil moist because the seeds are sitting at the top. I could bottom water, which I will later start bottom watering, which means I'll just start adding water into this tray, allowing the soil to soak up the water. But because the seeds are sitting so close to the top, it's easier just to constantly come out here and just spray the top in order for them to receive moisture. Another option is to use domes. So I can place this dome on top of the tray, creating a greenhouse effect, which will create condensation from the heat and allow the soil to stay moist and not dry out too quick, which also prevents me from having to spray or water too frequently. This will allow the seeds to germinate and start to sprout. At this stage, I do not need to fertilize, but once we see the true leaves growing, we will start to lightly fertilize. But again, we'll talk more about that when we start seeing seeds and they are actually starting to grow. Okay, so we have planted out our spicy and our sweet peppers. And on our next video, we will move on to tomatoes. Please add any questions or comments that you may have, and I will try to address those on the next video when we are planting our tomatoes. Thank you guys for sticking with me through this video. Seeds just need 4 things: light, heat, soil, and moisture. I want to emphasize that it's not so important to spend a lot of money in buying all these tools as it is for you to just get in there and have a good time, enjoy growing your seeds and watching them germinate. As this process continues, I'll keep you updated. I'll show you the progress as they're growing. And I hope that this has been helpful. And I'm excited to see that you're getting your gardening started with me. Bye-bye.